Oh, does that just bring you home? When you look up there and you see a Mask of Momentum? It's been a while.
I know. Check the timestamp on this video, friends. But there it is. Mask of Momentum, Fyendel Spring Tunic. You do have the breaking scales. And those are Breeze Riders. Now, typically, you do see Snappy, Snapdragon Scalers give go again. But in this case, it's an option to just go ahead and rattle off a series of go agains. Not to mention, it does have a Battle Worn of 1. So it does soak up a little bit of damage. And when you're facing the old school badass, that is Bravo Showstopper, baby. One of the, you know what? You got Undertaker, you got Kane. That's the one that missed the cut. It would have been him. It would have absolutely been him with an Nothos that would have just swing for big damage.
Would it have been like a real hammer, or would it have been more like one of those comic hammers that it hits you, the person freaks out, it makes some weird noise?
Like the 1990s Super Nintendo style where like Undertaker would throw bats at you.
All right, so we do have a Bravo activation here, so the next attack is going to have Dominate. It looks like this is that a Righteous Charge?
A Righteous Cleansing, my friend. Oh, that is a nasty, nasty one right there. And, all you need to know here is it is Dominate, and it is 10. And on the opening play, typically, like we mentioned earlier, attacking your opponent on the opening turn gives them an opportunity to go ahead and just, cycle some of the cards they don't want. In this case, Dominate's like, all right, you can take one, but you're also going to have to pay the piper here and dig some damage. As Righteous Cleansing, as you can see it on the screen, if it the crush effect of dealing 4 or more, look at the top 5 of your opponent's deck. Banish 1 or more cards of the same title among them. So, hey, nice 3 flick-flacks like I saw, they're all gone. Or nice combo pieces, they're all gone.
Yeah, and that looks like that's going to be a sink below from hand from Alberto Ruiz, putting a card from his hand on the bottom, too. Going to go ahead and use a little bit of filtering here this turn.
But ultimately, 6 points of damage, that went through. That's going to be relevant here as both players are aggressive.
Yeah, I've actually never seen Righteous Cleansing trigger Crush before, so this is a first for me, maybe a first for a lot of people at home. So what's happening here is he's looking at 5 cards, he's going to banish one of them, right?
Yeah, so he's looking at the top 5 cards. Any duplicates, 1 or more of. So you find 2 of the same that you want, you'll get rid of it. And ultimately, maybe you want to get rid of something like, maybe you find some, I don't know, Winds of Eternity, for example. That's a big piece over here. 100 Winds, Crane Dance. There's a lot of things that you want to get rid of. But you know what? You might just find the one clutch piece that you don't want to see. Maybe you find the Art of War, and you get rid of the Art of War. So that's a big piece as well. He might get lucky here and find a pair of unmovables, but ultimately in this case, just finding a Snatch, which is a very, very key piece. Yeah,
Snatch a really important attack in these aggro decks about going wide. It's a 4 power attack that draws a card on hit, just very, very powerful. One thing I'd like to know is, with Righteous Cleansing, is there a way for him to kind of really poke a hole in the Katsu deck? Like, is there a way to take out a specific attack that keeps them from doing any of these big elaborate combos that Katsu can be known for?
Yeah, I mean, again, the Katsu list is really focused and centered around things like Surging Strike into Whelming Gust Wave and that whole line. It's a very, very important element here. If you can pull out, if you get lucky and find a pair of red Whelming Gust Waves and banish those, they're banished. They're not in the graveyard, which means if you do go down the Lord of Wind train and do manage to go ahead and get that going, then you can get it. The fascinating element here is that Alberto Ruiz is not taking, the Lord, the Magenshi line all the way to Lord of Wind Station. He's not playing Magenshi Release, and he's not ending up at Lord of Wind. He's not playing those two.
Yeah, he's just playing what seems to be like the more Everfest-centric, kind of way to play this deck. You're seeing the Winds of Eternity and those kinds of attacks. But we're going to start off with the most classic attack, I think, in the history of this game. And that's just Kodachi for 1, Kodachi for 1. And we do see an attack reaction here on the second Kodachi. That's a Razor Reflex.
Razor Reflex, it punches through for damage, and ultimately, sometimes this might be a situation. I think Alberto might be saying, I don't really have much follow-up, so I'm just going to get rid of some cards, poke for damage, drop something in the arsenal, and just filter some more hands.
Yeah, that might look a little strange to somebody at home, right? Like, why did he just fire off a Razor Reflex there? Nothing was blocking. It's just kind of like throwing the card at his face, like, take this damage. But I think it's a good point. He just wants to make sure that, after his arsenal here, he's going to go up to 4 more cards. So this is like, he's got that 5-card type of hand. So it's really good on Alberto's side to make sure that he's just churning through cards as much as he possibly can. Now we're back over to Clark Jansen's side, leading in life at 35-34. Let's see if he's got another big attack. I mean, look, we attacked for 10 on turn 1. Let's see if we can maybe pump up the jam a little bit more this turn.
Here we go. So the first presentation of what's going to happen here. Now, what's beautiful about that Bravo showstopper play is off that blue pitch, create a seismic surge, and then go ahead and dominate. But we're going to go ahead and throw down some more pure fire here as he's going ahead. And, yeah, that is coming in for just 6. But 6 is still 6 in this case.
I think that's a choke slam, right?
Oh, potentially off the top rope. No, that would be dominated. If that was off the top rope, it would have been dominated. But in this case, yeah, like we mentioned, blast from the past. And Alberto Ruiz is playing a very aggressive list here. So you will see a lot of this damage just being absorbed if those crush effects are not important.
So speaking of important, I have a really important question for you. If Bravo Showstopper was a wrestler in the 80s or like early 90s, kind of, my era, which one would he have been? Is this like a Hulk Hogan or a Macho Man Randy Savage? This is an Ultimate Warrior thing we got going on here.
Well, he's got some like Mr. Perfect vibes going on.
That's a good call, actually.
Some Kurt Hennig there. But here it comes. Look at that. And I love this. This is so awesome. That's a pummel that's coming through, and it's being matched by an unmovable. And this is where the rule sequencing come in important. Some players just go ahead and immediately flash out those D-reacts. But in reality, it's once you declare no blocks, then it's to the attacker to present their combat trick. And in this case, the pummel came through, and the patience on the D-react to just jam it in there and continue the block means that choke slam with the pummel chaser, there was no connection.
Yeah, there was an unmovable and a flick flack there to make sure none of that damage got through. Now we're back over to Alberto. Down in life, 34 to 35. He's going to go ahead and click up his tunic here. Really important. And this looks like an exude confidence. One of the wordiest cards.
Oh, yeah.
In Flesh and Blood.
You definitely need like a compass and a map to figure this one out.
You need a PhD to get this card correct, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to exude no confidence in terms of what the potential ceiling is on this, but you do have a card still in hand. But again, in this type of game, that extra 3 damage might not necessarily be worth giving up a potential arsenal slot, so it's just going to poke through for 4. And as we see here, blocking is not really something that both players are really worried about right now.
And this is the funny thing to me, because when you think of classic matchups in the history of Flesh and Blood and back to Bravo versus Katsu, these were very defensive decks in their day, and we are seeing everything but that. We're seeing some D-reacts from these players, some defensive reacts, but other than that, we're getting huge attacks. This looks like a big spinal crush coming in.
Now, this is the one that Alberto is going to be very weary of. Spinal Crush has been in very many. This is a Bravo Star of the Show card as well, a Guardian attack that will, on Crush, just basically shut down any of the go-again effects, which for Katsu is your bread and butter. That's where that's the foundation you're building this deck on. So you have to block this out, which did occur. Some damage will leak through, but not enough for the crush effect.
Yeah, you saw a block from hand plus another flick flack from Alberto here. Took a little bit of damage down to 32, so it's back over to him. He's got a couple cards off his hand, a card in Arsenal. That tunic is up to 3. Is this the turn where he really starts to get something going? He's drawn a lot of defensive reactions here in the first couple turns, so do you think he's like trying to take just that defensive role in this matchup? Because, you said, he might not be able to do the whole, put everything together? Or is that just the way he should be playing this matchup?
In these Katsu matchups on aggro, you don't want any D-reacts. But in this case, I think you have to because of the crush effect. So this is where you're seeing that problematic issue of diluting your deck with D-reacts. And when you're on defense, you're not on offense. So it's dangerous. And in most matches, those D-reacts will not show up. It's a pure race. I'm just going to go come at you, and we'll see who finishes or crosses the finish line first. And in this case, with Bravo's with the attacks that are so devastating to what Katsu wants to do, the crippling crushes, etc., you need to be able to block some of these things out, so the D-reacts have to come in.
Yeah, it looks like we got a Kodachi for 1 here, followed up by a whelming gust wave.
There was also a little bit of a head shake there from Alberto, thinking, you know what, this is all I can muster, and this is what you're going to have to do. But it's chip, and an attack for 1 seems so insignificant, so it usually leaks through, but they add up, and that's Katsu's MO, is chip damage.
Yeah, if you watch anything earlier, when I was doing a match with Brian, we had a Prism matchup. The Prism, kept putting down their Spectral Shields, right? They kept putting down their auras, and you just chip away for 1. We actually called it the Kodachi plan.
It makes sense. In fact, I don't want to say it's a better Kodachi plan, but it's
because nothing's better than Kodachi. Let's be real.
Nothing's better than Kodachi. Start on the board. Come on, let's be real here. But again, look at just for a seemingly punchless start to this game for Alberto Ruiz, he's ahead, and he's done 10 damage, and he's faced off against some very, very heavy-hitting attacks.
Looks like that whelming Guffways is going to get through, putting Clark Jansen down to 27. We're going to clean this up. Alberto's going to keep that card in Arsenal, so this makes me believe that maybe that's another defensive reaction card. Since it's been in Arsenal for a little bit, he's going to drop the 4 cards, and now we're going back over to Clark. What kind of offense can he muster here this turn? It does look like it. I think this might be another big attack. I think we're getting 3 cards pitched here, it looks like, possibly.
Oh, the old school Bravo, when you got to pitch 3 cards to make one attack. Back before there was the old Starvo ability or Awakening, but what you used to do, it's you pitch blue, you dominate and create a Seismic Surge, and then maybe next turn, you do some other naughty things, as that's exactly what's happening. We're going to create another Seismic Surge with that Tectonic Plate. Oh, look at that! Never mind. I love that card. Hey, there we go. That's the fun, efficient way. You pitch the brand new Fable, you create a Seismic Surge, and another Seismic Surge, and you got 2 floating if you want to dominate something.
Yeah, it's showing off a little bit, I think, actually, So, just like that is another Choke Slam here. It's going to be, made a little bit cheaper, but that Seismic Surge, one of the important cards here getting pitched as well. That's a Terra Sunder, a card that's going to be really big, impactful in this game later at finishing off the Katsu player.
Yeah, we've seen how that card, just in Limited, at Tales of Aria, in the Limited format, is an absolute tank, and how that changes the game. And, it doesn't necessarily fit into some of the more meta decks right now, but Bravo Showstopper really likes to make use of this card.
Yeah, it's like Bravo doing a little bit, old school Bravo doing a little bit of impersonation of the new Bravo.
And the artwork on that Terra Sunder is gorgeous. Yeah. So that Chokeslam with the discount off the Seismic Surge is just a nice little 6. But we're going to go ahead and look. Alberto is looking through, and look, he's just looking at that pummel. He's just like, all right, yeah, I know there's more. But I think what he's verifying here is, what color is that pummel? Was it a yellow pummel, a blue pummel, a red pummel? What kind of color schemes are you going? If it's red, that's usually typical. But if you start seeing the yellows in there, it's a whole different game.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the deck list here. Clark is playing a full 6 of these. He's got 3 red, 3 yellow. At least in and stuff in there. Oh, there is a pummel here too after a huge block from Alberto.
And what's fascinating about this as well is, like, look, you just did a whole bunch of damage here. You've really attacked your opponent, done some, really disrupted the hand. But next turn, you're getting a 2 resource discount from the pitch and the creation of the 2 Seismic Surges.
Yeah, it looks like only 2 damage got through on that Chokeslam. Alberto down to 30. Still chipping in some damage against Clark. Clark is down to 27 here, so he's going to clean it up. Looks like it's going to be the end of his turn. We're going to move back over to the Katsu player.
I'm waiting for Alberto Ruiz here to just find what he needs. It just seems like he's been a little bit more leaning towards. He's found all essentially the second stops on those combo lines. He's found the whelming Gustwaves. He's found the D-reacts as well. But where's the leg taps? Where are the surging strikes? Where is perhaps a snatch with a razor reflex to help it out? Those are some of those combos that you need.
Right, so we were waiting for the discard here from Alberto Ruiz off that. And look, there is an even bigger than that, but this one is just to fuel up some Kodachis.
And that's what I said. That's why this card in itself is such a nice addition to the Katsu list. It's a 0 pitch that has, yellow or blue that you can play that fuels those Kodachis, and it's a very versatile and useful card to go ahead and pick out the next attack that you want to make.
Yep, Kodachi again here from Alberto, like you said, just continuing to chip in damage here when he can and do as much defense as he can. And this is a whelming Gust Wave from Arsenal here as well. So getting in, a little bit more damage here, because I think Alberto's going to want to draw as many cards as he can possibly this turn, because I think we're about to have a big turn possibly from Clark here. There's been a card in that Arsenal. He's got a bunch of cards in his hand, and there's 2 Seismic Surge tokens there. I think he's going to be worried about a big attack coming next turn. So there might be a lot of pressure on him here to find a defensive reaction. So now the equipment's going to come out. Since Clark is at a lower life total, that Skull Cap is active, and this blocks a full 4 here.
And there's nothing wrong with just sometimes tossing out some whelming Gustwaves or some combo pieces early if your objective is to really feed that graveyard so that late in the game you can go Magenshi into Lord of Wind and have this massive pop-off turn. You want to feed that so that, mid to late game you have that threat, and it does force your opponent to make those blocks. However, Alberto's list does not run Magenshi Release or Lord of Wind. So tossing out some of these pieces when they're not chained off of a Surging Strike, you're losing a lot of that steam that you would have had otherwise. That looks like another big hit here. If I believe that is again extended art, wonderful, beautiful card, and once again a pummel chaser. Why not? You do have a sink below to sort of soak some of that damage, but it is still going to hurt here, Tannen, as it's life points and a card.
Yeah, so it's a attack for 8, followed up by a pummel here with the on hit for a certain amount. You get some discard here. The sink below is going to block 4 of it. But that's not enough to keep him from having to discard a card. It's Alberto consulting his hand here, going down to 22, taking a huge chunk of damage. He's going to lose a card here for his efforts as well.
I have to give a lot of dap here to Alberto, who has eaten pummels, big attacks, and has still managed to go ahead and just start shaving that life total off of Clark for as he has. It has not been your typical Katsu game plan here. You haven't seen the surgings into whelmings, that whole thing, no leg taps into risings, and I haven't even seen 100 wins. You are running 3 red and 3 blue 100 wins, one of the new cards from Everfest that is so good in aggro, but Katsu just seems to be just doing it maybe the hard way.
Yeah, we've seen a ton of cards from the new set in Everfest here. We see Thunderquake here, Macho Grande has shown up. Back over to Alberto here. We've got to pitch a little bit of resources here. We're going to start out with, everyone say it with me, Kodachi for 1.
And what's best following a Kodachi for 1? A Kodachi for 1. There it is, Tannen. That's what I want to talk about. And what I love to see here, you did wait for the blue pitch and the tunic. So Kodachi, Mask is now a threat.
Yeah, so if this hits, that's a draw for Alberto as well. And so this is like the really scary spot when you're playing against Katsu, right? Is when they start getting those deeper chains. So they start getting the 3rd and the 4th attack. That's when Mask of Momentum becomes a real threat, right?
Mask of Momentum is not just... it's the threat of the Mask of Momentum. The card draw is basically the cherry on top. But the fact that you're creating a situation where your opponent is lured into making those blocks and forcing some resources out of them. So here is again, Mask of Momentum is a threat here. The 3rd consecutive on hit that is an attack action on that chain will create a draw. But opting rather in this case to just go ahead and block it out and getting some of those resources out there. And it's, again, squaring up with those Kodachis again.
Now, as the Katsu player, does that still feel like a win? You got a -1 counter on one of the equipments. You got a card out of hand from Clark. Yeah, you don't get to draw the card, but I feel like maybe he got enough out of it.
Let's be real here. I think what was ideal was perhaps you catch the Bravo player on some, perhaps some bad cards, maybe some pummels that block for 2, and it's not as easy. But, let's be real. A lot of those Guardians attacks, the majority of them block for 3, if not all of them. So it's going to be difficult when you can block with a piece of equipment and a card from hand. That Surging Strike it just fell flat. Especially, it had to go again that he did not take advantage of. You don't have a Whelming to follow it up because the Whelmings were used the old-fashioned way of just dropping them late. And it's I feel like maybe the pieces have not fallen. The dominoes were not lined up the way that Alberto would have appreciated in this matchup.
All right, we're getting our first Anothos attack here in this game. I'm used to seeing this attack a lot in the matchups with old school Bravo. It looks like we got an attack here just for 4 since there aren't 2 cards that cost 3 or more in the pitch zone. That's why you see a lot of players start off their turns. Another pummel.
There it is. Why not?
This is my favorite trick with Anothos, by the way. I've done this a lot in drafting. I would say farewell to Wraith. Welcome to Wraith. It is a lot my so. Anothos, like it says, if you have 2 cards that cost 3 or more in your pitch zone, this gets +2. So what you can do is you can activate as an attacker for 4. Your opponent says, block or no blocks. If you pummel it, but you pitch a card that costs more to pay for pummel, Anothos keeps checking. So it actually gets pumped by the pummel and the +2 from the card. So just a huge amount of damage out of nowhere. Alberto's like, yeah, I'll take 4. Excuse me, sir. It's 10.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the pummel. You see it on the screen. It does buff not just the attacks, but also the hammer. So, like you said, it's a sneaky way to get through for extra damage there, as Alberto thought, okay, 4 doesn't seem so bad, but how about 10 after you declare no blocks?
It's a classic way to win a game with Bravo. They think they're only going to take a little bit, and they're like, oh, I can take this. Maybe the next attack I'll interact with. And they're like, well, since you're not blocking, I'm going to make sure I get I'm going to get while the getting's good. Kind of stuff. So that's going to put Alberto down to 12. Getting a little dangerous of a life total here with, possibly dominating attacks coming out of Bravo. Are you getting a little worried as the Katsu player in this spot?
Well, what I'm worried about as the Katsu player is I haven't seen a Crippling Crush yet. I have not seen a single Crippling Crush. And like you mentioned, when Clark has a 23 point cushion, you could absorb damage to preserve that perfect hand, that pitch for dominate, and that pitch for crippling crush. So I think that right now Clark is in a very good spot, and I don't think he's necessarily going to worry until he's closer to maybe like that 10 to 12 range, where if Alberto does draw that amazing combo line, then if Clark can't block out efficiently enough and he goes down to that below 5 range, then we go into what's called Kodachi lock.
Speaking of Kodachi, we have a Kodachi for 1 here. It looks like it's hit, and that's going to be followed up with an even bigger than that.
Yep, this is even bigger than that, as yellow will be looking to on hit. This one opts 2, and then you reveal the top card of the deck. If that card that you reveal is an attack that has an attack that is greater than the damage you've done, which, I mean, at 1, that's a pretty good hit, you will then basically create a Quicken token and draw that card into hand.
It does look like Alberto misses there. I think that was a Razor Reflex that got revealed off the top of his deck. Now we're going to follow this up with a Kodachi for 1. So the second attack this turn from Kodachi. So now we're further up on the chain. If Alberto has another attack here, we're starting to threaten that Mask of Momentum again. Maybe that's a way he can start to get back in this game.
Yeah, a little tickle here and there, and there's the best card in the game, the most underrated card, and just fuel is Belittle. Yes, there are some people that are likely saying, what are you talking about? But I'm telling you, Belittle, one of the most underrated cards in the game, according to some. Nonetheless, Belittle is a 3 that has Go Again, and what it does is it wants to check your hand for a card that satisfies the criteria of 3 or less attack, and then what you do is you show it, and you can go ahead and fish out the Minnowism, the follow-up to that, which can be 2 things. It's either, I believe in this list, we have
looks like just 1.
1 red and 2 blue. So
go.
if you need the blue for resources, use the blue for resources. If you want to go ahead and pump up your next attack, grab the red, pump up your attack, and you feel good.
Yeah, this is a card that, this combo we've seen sneak in at spots here or there, like Chain utilize it at some point in time. Just a good card to have in some of these aggro decks. Like you said, very flexible in what you want to do. You're like, hey, I want to get this blue and get a few more resources, or I want to make sure that my next attack is very threatening, like you said. So we're back over to the Bravo player, Clark, lining up some blocks here. Got to be a little worried here. You need to make sure that you block out and don't get a card draw off Mask of Momentum.
Yeah, Mask of Momentum is online here in terms of being threatening. So the block's going to occur. That's basically going to shut down the turn here, maintain that arsenal. I'm really curious what is in there. It might just be a D-React, something to protect. In this list, he is running 3 unmovables, and against Bravo, having that unmovable in the pocket means that Crippling Crush coming in dominated is just swallowed up by that 1 card. Speaking
of unmovable, we have 1 pitched here for resources. I wonder if we're making a Seismic Surge token, and maybe we're just setting up for, okay, there we go. We got an Anothos coming in.
Frankly, I mean, having unmovables against Katsu seems like it's an interesting choice here, because it does go ahead and it basically swallows up those the surging strikes and such, but at a very expensive cost. So a unique choice to have in this game against Katsu. However, it does pitch for 3. It does pitch for 1 with that 3 cost that does give the Anothos a better swing. Now, we do see a D-React out of Alberto. We see an unmovable block the Anothos there, but not from hand. So maybe there is an aggression card, some kind of get me back into this game card for Alberto here in this arsenal. We'll have to see. So we're going to start the turn off with a Snatch. Now, this doesn't have Go Again yet. There might be a couple things to possibly have happen here. What if that could be a Razor Reflex that's in there? He is holding on to 1 more card here, so this is 4. Potentially, with a Razor Reflex in the arsenal, you're pitching to go ahead and play that not only adds to the 3 damage, but on hit gives Go Again, and the benefit of the Snatch having a draw card effect as well. Yeah, if you're the Bravo player here, are you contemplating overblocking in some way here, just because, maybe that's what makes sense with this play line? If your hand is basically set, if your next play is it's basically just it's a beacon of exactly what you want to do, then you might just swallow this. The 4 cards plus the arsenal could be what changes the game here. Maybe you have a dominated Crippling Crush ready to go, and that will end the game to a degree. It'll just put it to that point. A 7-point Snatch, you don't know what you're drawing. What if that card is... What if it's nothing? What if it's a Minnowism? What are you going to get from that? It's a card that might be able to pitch to go Kodachi, but he's thinking about it here. Yeah, he's going to take his time. And you don't blame Clark here, right? If you're taking your time on this block. This looks like a pretty hard spot, one of the more important attacks in the game here, because Alberto's showing some strength here with this Snatch attack. You got to start having,
those thoughts in the back of your mind. What is this? Oh, wow, that's a Crippling Crush.
Yeah.
And a Thunderquake on the block, so that's for 6.
Yeah, there is the, and I believe he used his Tectonic Plating to go up to 7. So he was anticipating that Razor Reflex, which I don't blame him. I think that that's what's in there. Here's the issue, though, Tannen. Next turn, he'll be able to play that Razor Reflex for free with the Tunic value. So that is a concern as well. If I was Clark and I had all of those cards, including the Crippling Crush, and I was able to play it, I may have hung on to it.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a Seismic Surge token pop here. Going to pitch for some resources, and this looks like a Crush Confidence coming in from Mr. Jansen here for 7.
So Crush Confidence with that on-hit Crush effect will essentially shut off your opponent's hero ability, essentially. And in this case, that means that your tutor ability with the Katsu is offline, and that can be very detrimental for Alberto. So this is a very telling play. But he said he might have all the pieces he needs, because I think he just took this.
Well, no, he used a Flick Flack to block a little bit of damage here, but down to 9. Clark's still at a healthy 21. But like you said, I think we're one big turn away from Alberto to get back in this game, but we're going to need that quick.
Oh, definitely. I mean, at this rate, you are the aggressor, as you should be. I feel like Katsu, in this case, should have been, really... He has not chained together more than 3 attacks, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a Katsu player.
We've never seen a 4th one get to the chain. You're definitely right here. So we see an attack with the Harmonized Kodachi here. Now, like you talked about, that Tunic, we want to point this out, is at 3 counters this turn, so an extra resource available to Alberto. And you and I both believe there's a Razor Reflex hiding out somewhere here.
Oh, it's definitely in the arsenal. That's my guess for sure. And the beautiful part about this is, like you mentioned, Clark saw that coming, and it is definitely on... It's in the back of his mind as something that he needs to be aware of. But again, here comes that chip damage. 1 Kodachi, no problem. 2 Kodachi, no problem. 3 Kodachi floor is essentially how it goes. It's the tequila rule, right? So
yeah, I'm dancing over here. If anybody at home is as well. So 2nd Kodachi here, coming in for 1 damage. Maybe something Clark wants to think about doing something here, but I've got to be a little more worried if I'm Clark about what's coming behind this.
Well, it's the follow-up. The Kodachi is essentially the appetizer. The main meal is what's coming through. And if you do not like the flavor of what's being served, then you're going to have to basically just, you got to take it anyways. You got to be the polite guest and eat what they serve you. So there's just going to throw the gauntlets there. Sorry, that's the Ironhide legs. Or is it the Iron Rod? No, I believe that is the Ironhides.
It is Iron Rod, yeah.
Oh, it's Iron Rod. So let's just block for 1. Easy peasy, old school. And you're talking about old school. Block for 1.
Here's the Razor Reflex that we're talking about here. Interesting, using it on the Kodachi, making sure to get through a bunch of damage here for a little bit of 3 extra damage. Looks like the Tunic's going to get used, and we're going to follow this up.
All right, now here's the Surging Strike, but there's no cards left in hand, which means that you can't trade up for any cards. There's no Whelming Gust Wave threatening over here. This is just 5 the old-fashioned way. However, that Razor Reflex on that Kodachi means that the Mask of Momentum is definitely threatening here, and 5 is an awkward number. If you've got some 2s in hand, you're going to have to pair it with a 3, but that means that your next turn is going to look a lot weaker, whereas Bravo's attacks are very expensive. You need a full grip to really push through.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure on Clark's hand here because he doesn't want to give him a free card here to just put in his arsenal. His Skull Cap is not active to block here, so no equipment. Well, actually, we got the hands here that could block for just 1 here. The legs are going to be gone here at the end of this, so most of this blocking is going to have to be done from hand. But like you said, 5 an awkward number because most of the things are going to be for 3, and he's only got 1 extra from the equipment. So you're looking at possibly 2 cards here if you want to block.
Yeah, Skull Clap does sound like a Bravo attack, though, doesn't it?
It does sound like some kind of finishing move where the guy just like hits the side of the head.
Like the Stooges. Yeah. Give him the old Skull Clap there. Yeah. Nyuk, nyuk, nyuk. All right, let's keep going. But
Speaking of Stooges, have you seen us?
Yeah, no. So here's another awesome play again. The fact that no cards are in hand is a fascinating element here. It's 5 damage no matter what. Clark is kind of wearing his options. It's, do I take it and take the risk that the Mask of Momentum is going to draw something nasty, which he's doing. He took the 5. So Alberto here has 2 options. Number 1 is you layer the triggers as such where I draw the card. Now I can go ahead and use Kansu's ability, which he did. So he drew an excellent card, and now he's hunting for that 3rd red Whelming Gust Wave. I think we've seen 2 already played, but another Whelming Gust Wave is another nasty piece. It's coming in at 4 with Go Again and another on-hit draw effect. The life totals are going to start dropping.
Yeah, this is the turn that you were talking about that Alberto needed, right? He needed this turn to start getting the chain up. We've seen it get to 3 once or twice this game to kind of threaten that Mask momentum, but this is the first time that it's gone up past 3. Mask has already been active and drawn an extra card, and there's that card you were talking about.
The Whelming Gust Wave. Yes, it's amazing when you see some of these cards that are such centerpieces. They are essentially the focal point of what this deck wants to do. Surging into Whelming. It's so nasty. A 5 attack with natural go again, and where there's the Whelming. Again, combo is just so centric to what Katsu does and how it presents damage as it checks the previous attack. It was Surging Strike. +1 attack, go again, on hit, draw.
Yeah, so that's so important here because, look, we're threatening 4 more. Yeah, Clark might be able to block this with 2 cards or a card from his hand and his Crater Fist, but that's going to take a lot of resources away from Clark, and that's kind of what Alberto is trying to do here while also pushing damage. But if this hits, it draws a card, and he's got go again, so that threatens another attack here. So Clark is really incentivized to block.
Yeah, I believe we've seen 3 Razor Reflexes now, so those are like 3 bad cards that you wouldn't want to draw off that, but he's just opting to block this out, which I believe is a decent play here. You just don't want this to start snowballing, because what if the next card you draw is another Snatch? Then it's 4 plus a threatening on hit, which offers another arsenal.
Back over to Clark. Got a couple cards in hand, a card in arsenal here. Let's see if he can present a big attack, because we're in a very... is that a Rouse the Ancients?
That is a Rouse the Ancients, flashing 2 other cards. Again, Rouse the Ancients is saying, reveal 2 cards in hand that are 13 or more total attack. If it does, Rouse the Ancients comes in at 7 and go again. Why not, Tannen? Why not have go again?
Yeah, I mean, this is something Guardian... This is one of the only Guardian cards that actually had go again the first time around. You know, you didn't have too many options. And we've seen this card actually get popular from time to time.
So it's a very popular card.
Generic, right?
It's generic, exactly. But we see this in Guardian because of the criteria that's needed to get the go again. Is you need very fat attacks.
In my mind, this is a Guardian card because what other class can actually satisfy the need of 13 power?
It's much like Zealous Belting and such, where you need the card in the pitch zone to have it. But yeah, Rouse the Ancients as a 3, and Guardians and their affinity for having lots of blue pitch. So it's a blue pitch, you check the other 2 cards in hand, and suddenly it is getting really nasty. And the beautiful part about this is you pitch the other blue, swing a Nothos for a lot of damage, and you still got an arsenal to feel good about.
Yeah, this is a really rolled up turn here for Clark. We're attacking for 7 with this one, like you said, threatening another 6 behind this. Alberto only at 9 here, so like taking any of these hits is really threatening for the next turn because Clark can just start activating Bravo, giving Dominate, and making any large attack be very difficult for Alberto to get out of. This is like we're going to get a block from hand twice here.
It's looking like, I believe that's a block of 6, so 1's going to leak through. We've got an 8 spot on the board for Alberto, still healthy enough to, really be able to absorb, a nasty Dominate effect. But I think what Alberto really wants to hunt for now is another Unmovable. Have that in the arsenal in your back pocket ready to go when things get rowdy, and this is where you know that it's getting spooky, because I just gave you a Tunic and that mask which is so critical to applying pressure and putting your opponent in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah, that's when you know the game's getting down to the nitty-gritty. That's when you know you're getting desperate. Tunic, I don't mind blacking with Tunic here. It doesn't have any counters on it, so you're probably not using it for the next 2 or 3 turns, so any spot where you can get a good block in with it is nice. Mask hurts to lose whenever it happens. Yeah, sometimes you got to do it, but it's such an important card. Speaking of important cards,
there's the 100 wins. This is a wonderful new addition from Everfest. It does cost 0. It's a 3 with natural go again, checking how many 100 wins you've played. And if the previous card was 100 wins, we're going to give a little bit of extra here. If 100 wins was the last attack of this combat chain, again, gains +1 for each card named 100 wins in the chain. So what's amazing about this card is that if you have a handful of them, they just go off and off and off and snowball and snowball. And I'm surprised I have not seen any of these yet, because they're such easy cards to play, especially the reds, when you're trying to just chain off these long-standing combat chains.
Yeah, another card that pitches for 3 in this deck, costs 0, so that does a lot of stuff with Kodachi. It's got inherent go again, which is pretty big in getting the big combat chains. Only attacks for 1 in quotations here, but looks like we're going to get a block from hand plus the Crater Fist. This is going to get followed up by Exude Confidence.
All right, what I like over here was the fact that they overblocked a bit over here, if I'm not mistaken. That was a 4 block on a 3 attack, and it's possible because he might have been just, respecting the Ancestral Empowerment. But the Ancestral Empowerment's, the power of that card oftentimes is just to go over that block point and get the on-hit. There's no real on-hit for 100 wins in the card itself. But with Katsu, you would have been able to go a draw card, flip a card through. So right now, Clark is really respecting the extra combat tricks, the 2 ancestral empowerments that exist in this list.
Now, Alberto down to 5, Clark down to 8. This game is getting really close and down to the wire. Let's see if Clark can start putting together, maybe a big attack here this turn. He's still got a Nothos if he wants to do that. Maybe he wants to set up an arsenal, but what he really wants is he wants a big attack that's dominated, and that's what he's really looking for. And with, I think that's only a 3-card hand, that might be hard to do.
I don't think that's going to happen, and this is where it becomes dangerous for the Bravo player, mainly because a lot of your attacks cost a lot of resources.
And here, what you see is we see an attack with a Nothos, and Alberto's going to go through the graveyard of Clark Jansen and count the number of pummels, because if there's a pummel here and you don't block correctly, you are dead.
Yeah, when I do my taxes, I give my accountant all my receipts and all my pummels. I'm like, count all of this, because it's incredibly important. But that's essentially what's occurring over here, is Alberto is just doing the accounting himself. He's already seen, 3, I believe he's already eaten. So there's plenty of them out there.
It does look like there is going to be a pummel here. Now, there is a sink below to soak up 4 of this. So this was attacked for 6, and what color is that, a yellow pummel?
Looks like a yellow pummel indeed, so that's another +3 attack on that. And with the pitch that's in there, that is going to be another +2 on the hammer. So if I'm not mistaken, that is a 9 attack hammer.
And that's going to be exactly enough to kill Alberto Ruiz down to 5. Wow. What a finish.